What's going on, guys? Rob, Professor Immortal here, and behind me is War Machine, the first whiteboard breakdown for Gears of War Ultimate Edition. I asked you guys what map you wanted to see, and we're going to hit arguably the most fan-favorite map in the Gears of War franchise. So before we start talking about, some of the strategies that we may see out of the gate in Ultimate Edition, I really wanted to spend some time on what makes a map good in Gears of War. Why is War Machine so popular? Is it because it's that House Rules 1v1 mid-box, 2v2 mid-box shoddy map that we just feel like, we've adapted to and grown to love? Is that why it's a favorite map? Or is it something deeper than that? So what I really want to explore here before we talk about some of the strategies is vision. How important is vision on a map? Thinking about coming out of the spawn and really identifying what you see. So if we talk about vision a little bit in Gears of War, I think War Machine has incredible vision, and I think it really plays a role in why it's such a successful map for execution. So as players come out, they'll be able to recognize immediately what they see on the other side. For example, if we're running a typical base strat on War Machine, which is essentially a line across, and we'll talk about that a little bit more soon, players can identify and see quickly what the opposition is running. And I think this is one of the most important elements for designing maps for competitive play in Gears of War. What this allows you to do is, one, communicate with your team, and two, identify the weak spot in your opponent's defense, or setup rather. So before we dive further into the War Machine strategies, I want to just kind of explore the Gears of War franchise for a moment and identify what maps are successful, what maps do we tend to like, and how vision seems to be important throughout. So in Gears of War 1 we can talk about War Machine. I also think Clock Tower is a great map, and we've seen that throughout Gears, and I believe that provides incredible vision, and is sort of the key strategy to that map, is sort of gaining the most vision and playing for the top. But looking into Gears of War 2, I want to talk about Pavilion. Pavilion was a pretty fun map to play, and it had a really wide opening in the middle. And on one side that map was pretty good on vision, but on the other side I believe it was poorly designed for vision, because there was this really big obstructive wall where the sniper pit is. And it often meant that you had to hesitate and decide if it was the right time to push. So what vision allows you to do is allows you to make decisions. And if you don't have good vision, it may inhibit a team from pursuing a play. Pavilion was almost there, but there would often be times where there would be these stalemate type rounds, and there would be this weird snipe battle going on because there was no clear vision on one side of the map where a flank could be executed without very high risk. Looking at Gears of War 3, I would say Checkout had amazing vision, and Checkout was incredibly popular to dive into and have some fun, for one, where you may have warmed up. But in competitive play, you could just run out of the spawn and immediately see what your opponent was doing, and from that communicate with your team and execute a play. We see that they're only sending 2 to Checkout side, we're going to push that side because we have numbers, we have 3. Something like that. But vision allows you to not guess, and it allows you to make decisions. I want to talk about Old Town, because Old Town I was pretty excited about Old Town when it came out. I said, wow, this map has 3 lanes, it has really high depth of strategy. Depth of strategy is another key thing. If I want to talk about successful maps, it would be vision and depth of strategy, meaning that there's many strats. In addition to a base strat, there's a lot of opportunities to throw different things at your opponent. Old Town has 3 lanes, and right off the bat, we're presented with something we don't often see, and that's really interesting. But after playing it for a long while, we sort of identified how bad Old Town is for competitive play because of the obstructive vision. You can't see everything. You don't have the information to say, let's push up the middle, let's push up the right side. And there was often this strategy of everybody rushing one side and then everybody rushing the other side. But during those sort of I grabbed a power weapon, you grabbed a power weapon rounds, how do we move? How do you move if you can't identify where your opponent is set up? So I believe that vision is very key. And back to Gears 2, as we talked about, Pavilion was not quite there. Blood Drive was really successful, and people had a ton of fun on Blood Drive. You come down, you rush down these stairs, you can immediately identify your opponent's strategy, and with that information you can assess to push one side or the other, or grab a power weapon and make some plays. Whatever the case, vision is key. And we talk about maps that we like to warm up on and maps that have vision. It's going to be War Machine, Blood Drive, Checkout. They all have a common theme there, and that is incredible vision. So in addition to the importance of vision, we mentioned depth of strategy. And again, this would be in addition to a base, I have the option to run something else that would benefit me, whether it be a trick strat, whether it be another type of base. You may have a 3-1, you may have a 2-2. It's important to have depth of strategy on a map, so there's a metagame element to Gears. And that often comes down to risk-reward. If we are going to make a play for Torque Bow on this map, we may send 2 players to Torque Bow because we want to secure the Torque Bow. Well, the reward is going to be Torque Bow, and the risk is going to be we're going to leave this guy stranded. And as the team tends to set up on this map, this could be a 2v1 situation, or your opponent team's going to grab sniper and back out. But that's a successful map there because you made a decision out of the gate. And if you check out my Jacinto breakdown, I talk about strategy, what goes into building a strategy. We talk about risk-reward a lot. It's not just killing your opponent's team, it's identifying a goal. And if the goal is going to be get a power weapon, or the goal is going to be take over a certain section of the map, there's going to be risk involved there. And as we reset here, there's one more element that I think is important for good map design. Can it survive competitively without a boom shot on the map? Okay, and it's kind of funny, but it's true. Like, we put boom shots on maps anyway, and experimenting in Gears 3. Could the map survive competitively without a boom? There needs to be a focal point, and War Machine doesn't have a boom shot currently. It's set up like this. Actually, we're going to drop the nades in, and we're going to reset everybody as we get ready to talk about some strategy. But War Machine looks something like this. There's your power weapon set up. There's no boom shot on this map. We don't have a boom, but we have incredible vision. And I think booms come into play when you don't really have good vision because you may not be able to see. So you need to get everybody's attention to go fight where the boom is, okay? So no boom on this map, and we passed that test. One of the most iconic fights in Gears of War 1 is going to be this fight right here. It's going to be playing this wall, this window, okay? This is one of my favorite things about War Machine. The amount of vision that you get from this fight, but you still can't really, get into that shoddy fight that we're used to doing is just incredible. It's such a unique fight. And it's a fight that requires so much trust in your teammates. I think another element that makes War Machine so fun is the fact that this guy's life depends on this player. There's so much teamwork involved in War Machine that it makes it very addicting to get into and very addicting to switch up your strategies. So let's talk about the base real quick, and we'll talk about that fight a little bit. As the Locust team's coming down here, the typical base strat that we saw in Gears 1, and a reminder, I haven't played Ultimate Edition, is not out yet, haven't played it competitively, so this is how I remember Gears of War 1 competitive. War Machine. You would send one to snipe, may possibly come down to the sandbag here. You got one on window. Can either come out this way to get there a little bit quicker. Could also come out middle, depending on what you want to do. You may want to come out middle if you suspect your opponent to be making a play for middle or something. Have that extra guy there to make that decision. This player can often tend to these sandbags, and he can also move up. There's a lot of decision making there. And then you have a player that comes out of spawn, usually grabs frags. There's really nothing preventing that from happening. And he can then decide, is he going to go up top and match the other player, or is he going to try and make a play here with the frags? So we just talked about base strategy, and we should really talk about a couple other strategies. As I mentioned, depth of strategy is important, and I think there's a lot of that here. So I'm trying to think in Ultimate Edition some of the advantages we may have. I think the smoke grenade is pretty sweet in Ultimate Edition. I think it really does what we've always wanted it to do and create some really clear obstruction. So you may be able to send some players down here, and let's talk about a strategy where we want to just secure sniper. So assuming your opponent is running a base setup, where they'll come and set up like this, and maybe grab frags, your team is just going to play for snipe and set up with sniper. So you're going to send maybe even 3 players to sniper. You have this goal. Your goal is to kill this guy. We're going to try and bait him down, maybe get that kill, and also pick up snipe. So by having 2 players possibly send a couple smoke grenades over and rushing 2 players down, holding 1 back, these 2 can get very aggressive, try and jump this player, or at least push him back. And this guy can be able to grab a sniper or get a nice cross here, while the last player is sort of holding defensive in the middle of the map. And you don't want to give up this too much. This player needs to make sure that this guy doesn't come across. And this is that element where I talked about how fun that mid-window fight is you need to prevent this guy from in the middle from coming over. Now in this type strategy, here is the reward. You're either going to grab a kill, let's assume in this case, and chase this guy away, and you're going to grab sniper. And the risk here is this guy can likely grab torque or get a really annoying flank going on. So you traded a kill for a power weapon and a power weapon for the other team, and if you did that quickly enough, that was worth it. I mean, you got a kill, and each team has a power weapon, so it really comes down to execution, guys. We talk about strategy and coming up with a way to perfect it within your team, and keep trying things out and really just executing things correctly. Worst case scenario there, you give up majority of the map, you do pick up sniper, and it will be difficult to maybe get out. This team's reaction to that, which I always like to say, okay, this is the strat, but how would I react to that on the other end? And if my team identified this, the key player here in this play, when you see something like that happening, is this guy needs to call it out to his team and say, yo, like there's smokes, there's something going on over here at snipe, I see 2, maybe 3. He needs to not die. His role is to make sure he survives, backs up, depending on how far, and this team needs to really come around and surround and play it smart and contain them. Because at this point, this Locust team is able to grab frags, grab the explosives, and really put themselves at an advantage. So there's the risk, as we talked about, risk-reward. If this team doesn't secure that kill and get out in time, they're in trouble because the Locust team are going to have explosives, and unless they get a lucky headshot with that sniper, it might have been a round loss. But anyway, there's just one little trick strat, another strat that you can run. Another piece on Warmachine is what do you do when you're outnumbered? Just wanted to quickly hit this, and oftentimes you can call this spawn the clutch room. If you are completely outnumbered in a 4v1 situation, because of the amount of vision and angles on this map, you sometimes often try to get back into this room. Let's say there's 3 minutes left on the round, you can get in here, and if your opponent doesn't play it correctly, and correctly by meaning, grabbing frags, grabbing all the resources they can to sort of flush you out with explosives, if they start coming in willy-nilly, you may be able to pop off a kill or 2. So this is typically the clutch room on this map, as we've seen on some other maps. But it's very difficult to win on this map without a power weapon when you're outnumbered. So that's typically one spot. Oftentimes you may be trapped up top. Basically, if your whole team gets wiped out down low, and let's say there's 2 players left or 3 players left, this is a common setup where you may be stuck, and you really just want to try and isolate. You want to do your best to isolate or circle around and try and get a power weapon, because it's very difficult with the angles on this map. So this is another spot, and you can do your little dash as these 2 players may start to isolate you, and again, and you're just going to have to try and dash and pick off a kill there, and do the best that you can to get out of that situation. But those are really sort of the typical spots that you'll end up seeing clutches occur, and where a player might be chased out. So I want to look at one more strategy, and this one I'm going to get some inspiration from an old Gears of War 1 competitive journal that I kept for a Psychology of Gameplay course in my sophomore year of college back in 2007. This is just one round on Warmachine that I'm going to read, and we're going to walk through and see how it plays out on the board. So here we go. The map is War Machine. The round count is 3-2 in favor of the opposing team. So going into the 6th round, we knew we needed to do something off the wall. It was very important to win this round, or we would be down 4-2, one more away from a loss. So tying it here was crucial. So we decided to send all 4 of us to bow. Four players to bow. Crazy trick strat. I don't know. Right away, we spotted 3 enemies heading to bow. So let's head to the board now. We're going to be cog in this scenario, and 4 players are coming to bow. Interestingly enough, the Locust team in this situation was sending 3 to bow already. This may have been something like this, as we talk about a base strat where they may have grabbed frags and come this way, but there's a number advantage, and that's what we're going to identify here. Right away, we spotted 3 enemies heading to bow, so we knew we had the initial advantage. We also knew that if we did not act quickly enough, they would have a sniper support from the other side of the map, and we would be in trouble. So teammates A and B rushed the middle right. So here's A and B. They're going to rush the middle right of torque bow, so we're going to say this mid box. And teammate C rushed the torque bow on the left, and myself is in between. So I guess I'm player D in this case, where I'm going to be right here. I'm going to say on the bottom, this guy ran over to torque. There's our little setup. So this is right out of the gate. We're running 4 to bow. Trying to switch some things up here. Our shotguns were ready, but teammate A dropped down very quickly to my right. Teammate A exposed himself here and got down by these guys. I hid behind a pillar and waited for the opposition to rush in to attempt to finish him off. So here I am behind the pillar right next to torque bow. They send 1 from each side to attack him as teammate B tries to fend them off. So they have a guy coming from this side and they have a guy coming from this side, and this player's down right here. And me and teammate B are trying to prevent that kill from happening. So they managed to kill the downed player as I blew an enemy away with the shotgun. So this player ended up taking him out, and I was able to grab that kill. So we pretty much did pawn for a pawn, little trade right there. Throughout this chaotic battle, this guy was able to grab torque and somehow was able to pick off a kill. So now we have a 3v2. Rushing toward their side middle, teammate B was in another fight. As sniper bullets were whizzing by B, he stunned an enemy and I finished him off with a shotgun. So now we got a 3v1 situation. Simultaneously, player C went down with the bow, but we revived him back. So the sniper ended up getting a down player. I shouted, "Sniper at sniper. I'm going to our side, you 2 flank left." Okay, so this player's set up here. I'm going to piggyback this way, and these 2 are going to flank left. So we're trying to trap this guy, isolate him in this 3v1. I turned the corner to face with my pistol out and began unloading from a distance, making my way closer to him as he fled. So he's possibly down here starting to move back. I'm pistoling with my right hand, moving up. My 2 teammates assault rifled until he was weak enough for me to smack him with the butt of my pistol for the finishing blow. Round complete, we were successful in tying the map 3-0 by switching our strategy and sending no one to sniper. Thank you guys for watching this whiteboard breakdown of War Machine for Gears of War Ultimate Edition. Really excited to see how this plays out. Do you see it playing any differently than traditional War Machine, or is it going to be pretty much the same in Ultimate Edition? I know I'm excited to see that. Let me know what you think in the comments and what map you would like to see next, guys. See you in the trenches soon.